Have you ever felt like you're living someone else's life? Like there's a part of you that's been silenced, buried beneath layers of expectations and survival mechanisms? You're not alone. Millions of women walk through life feeling disconnected from their authentic selves, carrying an invisible wound that shapes every relationship, every decision, every moment of self-doubt. What if I told you that the answer to your deepest healing lies not in becoming someone new, but in returning to someone you've always been? Hidden within your psyche is a little girl who holds the key to your feminine essence, your intuition, creativity, joy, and authentic power. But somewhere along the way, she was taught to hide, to shrink, to become acceptable rather than authentic. Carl Jung, the revolutionary psychologist, discovered that this inner child isn't just a memory. She's a living, breathing part of your unconscious mind that continues to influence your adult life. Until you heal her wounds and reclaim her gifts, you'll remain trapped in patterns of people-pleasing, emotional exhaustion, and a persistent feeling that something essential is missing. Today, you're about to embark on a journey that could change everything. But before we dive deep into this transformation, I want to know, where are you watching this from? Are you in a quiet moment of your day, finally ready to face what you've been avoiding? Comment below and let me know what brought you here today. Your story might be exactly what another woman needs to hear to begin her own healing journey. Deep within the chambers of your unconscious mind, there sits a little girl who has been waiting for decades to be seen, heard, and understood. She is not a metaphor or a psychological concept. She is a living fragment of your psyche that holds both your deepest wounds and your most authentic power. Carl Jung called this phenomenon the inner child complex, and he understood that until we acknowledge and heal this part of ourselves, we remain forever fragmented, living only a fraction of our true potential. This little girl carries the imprint of every moment when you learned that your authentic self wasn't safe in the world. Perhaps she remembers being told that crying was weakness, that your sensitivity was too much, that your dreams were impractical. Maybe she learned that love was conditional, available only when you were good, quiet, or accomplished. These early experiences didn't just hurt your feelings, they created a psychological blueprint that continues to govern your adult relationships, career choices, and sense of self-worth. Jung's revolutionary insight was that the psyche operates like an ecosystem, with different parts holding different aspects of our experience. When trauma occurs in childhood, certain parts of the self become split off and relegated to what he called the shadow, the unconscious realm where we store everything deemed unacceptable or dangerous. For many women, their natural feminine essence, their intuition, emotional depth, vulnerability, and creative power becomes part of this shadow, hidden away for protection, but ultimately creating a profound sense of disconnection from their authentic selves. The tragedy is that most women don't realize they're living this way. They've become so skilled at adapting, performing, and surviving that they mistake their coping mechanisms for their true identity. They build successful careers, maintain relationships, and check all the boxes of a good life, yet feel inexplicably empty, exhausted, or emotionally numb. This isn't a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It's the natural result of living disconnected from your core self. Consider the woman who excels in boardrooms, but crumbles when someone she loves withdraws affection. Or the accomplished professional who can negotiate million-dollar deals, but can't express her needs in her intimate relationships. These aren't contradictions. They're symptoms of a psyche where the wounded inner child is unconsciously driving adult behavior while the authentic feminine essence remains locked away. Jung understood that healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about integrating the parts of yourself that were split off during times of pain or trauma. This process, which he called individuation, requires the courage to turn toward your wounds rather than away from them. It means developing a relationship with that little girl inside who learned to hide her light, her voice, her truth. The first step in this healing journey is recognition. You must acknowledge that there is indeed a part of you that never grew up, that still carries the fears and longings of childhood. This isn't about blame or dwelling in the past. It's about understanding that your current patterns of behavior, your emotional triggers, and your relationship dynamics are often rooted in these early experiences. When you begin to see your adult struggles through this lens, everything shifts. That overwhelming reaction to criticism isn't just sensitivity, it's your inner child remembering when disapproval meant abandonment. That compulsive need to please others isn't kindness. It's a survival strategy learned when love felt conditional. That difficulty trusting your intuition isn't weakness. It's the result of being taught that your inner knowing couldn't be trusted. Jung believed that the goal of psychological development wasn't to eliminate these wounded parts, but to bring them into conscious relationship. This means learning to dialogue with your inner child, to understand her fears and needs, and to provide the safety and nurturing she never received. It's about becoming the loving parent to yourself that you needed, but may not have had. This process requires tremendous courage because it means feeling the pain you've spent years avoiding. But Jung promised that on the other side of this darkness lies something precious, the return of your authentic feminine essence. When you heal the wounds that caused you to hide your true nature, you reclaim access to your intuition, creativity, emotional depth, and the magnetic power that comes from being genuinely yourself. The little girl within you isn't broken. She's been protecting the most precious parts of your soul. She holds your capacity for wonder, your natural wisdom, your ability to love without conditions. She is the keeper of your feminine essence, waiting for the moment when it's finally safe to emerge from hiding and illuminate your life with her radiant truth. The moment a little girl realizes that her authentic self isn't safe in the world, she begins the unconscious process of creating what Jung called the persona, the mask we wear to navigate social expectations and protect our vulnerable core. This isn't a conscious decision, it's a survival mechanism as natural as breathing. But what starts as protection becomes a prison, and the masks we create to shield our wounded inner child eventually separate us from our own feminine essence. Think about the first time you learned to hide your tears because crying was too much, or when you discovered that being quiet and agreeable earned you praise while expressing your true feelings brought criticism or withdrawal of love. In that moment, your psyche made a crucial calculation. Authenticity equals danger, performance equals safety. From that point forward, you began constructing an elaborate system of masks, each designed to help you survive in a world that seemed to punish your true nature. Jung understood that these masks aren't inherently evil. They serve a vital function in helping us navigate complex social dynamics. The problem arises when we become so identified with our masks that we forget there's a real person underneath. For many women, this disconnection happens so early and so completely that they spend decades believing their mask is their true identity, wondering why they feel so empty despite appearing successful to the outside world. The good girl mask is perhaps the most common and destructive. This mask teaches you that your worth depends entirely on pleasing others, never causing trouble, and sacrificing your needs for everyone else's comfort. The good girl is always smiling, always agreeable, always putting others first. She learned early that love is conditional, available only when she's helpful, quiet, and undemanding. This mask can create incredibly successful women who excel at caring for others but have no idea how to care for themselves. Then there's the strong woman mask, forged in response to disappointment, betrayal, or abandonment. This mask declares, "I don't need anyone. I can handle everything myself." The strong woman is competent, independent, and seemingly unshakable. She learned that vulnerability leads to pain, so she built walls so high that even she can't see over them. While this mask can create impressive achievements and financial success, it often comes at the cost of intimacy, joy, and the ability to receive love. The perfect woman mask emerges from environments where nothing was ever quite good enough. This mask drives relentless self-improvement, constant comparison to others, and an exhausting pursuit of an impossible standard. The perfect woman believes that if she can just be flawless enough, thin enough, successful enough, accomplished enough, she'll finally be worthy of love. This mask creates women who look like they have it all together while internally battling crushing anxiety and self-criticism. The tragedy of these masks is that they work, at least temporarily. They help you survive difficult circumstances, earn approval, and avoid rejection. But Jung warned that what helps us survive childhood often sabotages us in adulthood. The very strategies that protected your wounded inner child now prevent you from accessing your authentic feminine power. Consider how the good girl mask affects your relationships. You become so focused on being what others need that you lose touch with what you need. You attract people who are happy to take without giving, and you find yourself in relationships where you're constantly giving but rarely receiving. Your inner child, still desperate for unconditional love, keeps hoping that if you just give enough, sacrifice enough, be good enough, someone will finally love you for who you really are. But they can't, because even you don't know who that is anymore. The strong woman mask creates a different but equally painful dynamic. You become so afraid of being hurt that you never let anyone close enough to truly see you. You attract partners who are either intimidated by your strength or who try to break through your walls, neither of which creates the safe, nurturing love your inner child craves. You find yourself successful but lonely, accomplished but emotionally starved. The perfect woman mask traps you in an endless cycle of striving and disappointment. No matter what you achieve, it's never enough to quiet the critical voice that drives this mask. You attract relationships and situations that mirror your internal perfectionism, surrounding yourself with people and environments that reinforce the belief that you must earn love through achievement. Jung's genius was recognizing that healing doesn't come from destroying these masks, but from understanding their purpose and choosing when to wear them consciously rather than being unconsciously controlled by them. The goal isn't to become maskless. That would be neither possible nor wise in our complex world. The goal is to remember that you are not your masks and to reconnect with the authentic self that exists beneath them. This reconnection begins with what Jung called shadow work, the process of acknowledging and integrating the parts of yourself that your masks were designed to hide. Your shadow contains not just your wounds and fears, but also your authentic power, creativity, and feminine essence. The very qualities your masks learn to suppress, your sensitivity, your needs, your emotional depth, your intuitive wisdom, are often the keys to your greatest strength and magnetism. When you begin to see your masks clearly, you can start to make conscious choices about when to wear them and when to set them aside. You can use your good girl mask when diplomacy is needed, while also honoring your own needs. You can access your strong woman mask when facing challenges, while also allowing yourself to be vulnerable in safe relationships. You can draw on your perfect woman mask when excellence is required, while also accepting your beautiful imperfections. The journey back to your authentic feminine essence requires the courage to peek behind these masks and meet the little girl who's been hiding there all along. She's been waiting patiently for someone to see her, to love her, not for what she does, but for who she is. When you finally remove the masks in the safety of your own presence, you begin to remember the radiant, intuitive, creative being you were before the world taught you to hide. The cost of living behind masks isn't just emotional, it's physical, mental, and spiritual. Your body keeps the score of every moment you've betrayed your authentic self, every time you've said yes when you meant no, every instance you've smiled while dying inside. Jung understood that the psyche and soma are intimately connected, and when we consistently live in opposition to our true nature, our entire system begins to break down. The exhaustion you feel isn't just from being busy, it's from the enormous energy required to maintain a false self. Think about how draining it is to constantly monitor your words, manage your expressions, and perform the role you think others expect. Your nervous system remains in a state of hypervigilance, always scanning for threats to your carefully constructed image. This chronic stress creates a cascade of physical symptoms: insomnia, digestive issues, headaches, and a persistent feeling of being overwhelmed. Your relationships suffer because authentic connection requires vulnerability, and vulnerability feels dangerous when you're operating from a wounded place. You find yourself surrounded by people who know your mask, but not your soul. The loneliness is profound. You can be in a room full of people who admire your performance while feeling completely unseen and unknown. Your inner child, still desperate for genuine love, keeps hoping that if you just perform better, someone will finally see through to your real self. The strong woman mask exacts a particularly cruel price. You become so identified with your independence that you lose the ability to receive support, comfort, or care. Your nervous system learns to interpret offers of help as threats to your competence. You attract partners who either lean on your strength without reciprocating or who feel emasculated by your capability. Either way, you end up carrying everyone else's emotional load while your own needs go unmet. The perfect woman mask creates a different torture, the endless pursuit of an impossible standard. You become addicted to achievement while terrified of failure. Your self-worth becomes entirely dependent on external validation, leaving you vulnerable to every criticism and hungry for every compliment. You develop what Jung called inflation, an identification with your achievements that makes you feel superior when you succeed and worthless when you don't. Perhaps most tragically, these masks cut you off from your feminine essence, your intuition, creativity, emotional wisdom, and natural magnetism. You learn to distrust your inner knowing because it doesn't align with what you think you should feel. You suppress your creativity because it feels too vulnerable, too revealing. You numb your emotions because they seem inconvenient or inappropriate. In trying to become acceptable, you become a stranger to yourself. The breakthrough comes when you realize that the very qualities you've been hiding are actually your greatest strengths. Your sensitivity isn't weakness, it's your superpower for reading energy and understanding others. Your emotional depth isn't instability, it's your capacity for profound love and connection. Your need for nurturing isn't neediness, it's your recognition of the interdependence that makes life meaningful. Jung called this realization the return of the repressed, the moment when the shadow qualities you've been denying begin to demand integration. This can feel chaotic and frightening because it challenges everything you thought you knew about yourself. But it's also the beginning of true healing, the first step toward reclaiming your authentic feminine power. The shadow, in Jungian psychology, contains everything we've rejected about ourselves, but it's not just our negative qualities. For women, the shadow often holds our most powerful feminine attributes: our rage, our sexuality, our ambition, our wildness, our deep knowing. These aspects of the feminine have been so demonized by patriarchal culture that we've learned to fear them in ourselves, pushing them into the unconscious, where they continue to influence our lives in hidden ways. Your feminine shadow might contain the part of you that knows exactly what you want and isn't afraid to ask for it. It might hold your capacity for righteous anger when boundaries are crossed, your sexual desire and pleasure, your competitive drive, or your ability to say no without explanation. These aren't character flaws, they're essential aspects of a whole, integrated woman. But if you learned early that these qualities were dangerous or unacceptable, you've likely spent years trying to eliminate them from your personality. The problem with shadow rejection is that it doesn't actually make these qualities disappear. It just makes them unconscious. Your repressed anger might emerge as passive aggression, chronic illness, or explosive outbursts. Your denied sexuality might manifest as compulsive behavior, shame, or complete disconnection from your body. Your suppressed ambition might show up as resentment toward successful women or self-sabotage when opportunities arise. Jung understood that shadow integration isn't about acting out every impulse, but about acknowledging and consciously relating to these rejected parts of yourself. When you can own your capacity for anger, you can use it as information about your boundaries. When you can embrace your sexuality, you can experience pleasure without shame. When you can accept your ambition, you can pursue your goals without apology. The journey into your feminine shadow requires tremendous courage because it means confronting everything you've been taught is wrong with you. It means facing the parts of yourself that your family, culture, or religion deemed unacceptable. But on the other side of this confrontation lies your authentic power, not the performative strength of your masks, but the genuine authority that comes from knowing and accepting all aspects of yourself. Before we continue deeper into this shadow work, I want to pause and acknowledge how challenging this process can be. If you're feeling overwhelmed or recognizing yourself in these patterns, know that you're not alone. Thousands of women have walked this path before you, and many are walking it alongside you right now. Share in the comments below, what aspect of your feminine shadow feels most frightening to explore? Your vulnerability might give another woman permission to face her own truth. The mirror of inner truth isn't a physical object. It's the practice of honest self-reflection that allows you to see beyond your masks and into your authentic self. Jung believed that this inner mirror was essential for psychological development, but for women it often becomes clouded by years of external validation seeking and self-criticism. Learning to see yourself clearly, with both compassion and honesty, is perhaps the most radical act of self-love you can perform. Most women have a distorted relationship with self-reflection. You've been taught to examine yourself through the lens of criticism, constantly finding flaws to fix, inadequacies to address, ways you're not measuring up. This isn't true self-awareness. It's self-attack disguised as self-improvement. The inner mirror Jung spoke of requires a different quality of attention, one that sees without judgment, observes without condemnation, and witnesses without the need to immediately change what you see. When you first begin to look into this inner mirror, you might be shocked by what you discover. You might see how much of your life has been spent in reaction to old wounds, how many of your choices have been driven by fear rather than desire, how little you actually know about your own preferences and dreams. This recognition can be disorienting, but it's also liberating. You can't change what you don't acknowledge, and you can't heal what you refuse to see. The inner mirror reveals not just your wounds and patterns, but also your incredible resilience and wisdom. You begin to see how creatively you've adapted to difficult circumstances, how much strength it's taken to survive and thrive despite your challenges. You start to recognize the intelligence of your coping mechanisms even as you prepare to outgrow them. This compassionate witnessing is the foundation of all healing. As you develop this practice of inner truth-telling, you begin to notice the difference between your authentic voice and the voices of your conditioning. Your authentic voice speaks with clarity and conviction, even when it's scared. It knows what it wants and what it doesn't want. It can express needs without apology and boundaries without explanation. The voices of conditioning, on the other hand, are full of shoulds and shouldn'ts, comparisons and criticisms, fears and limitations. The inner mirror also reveals your feminine essence in all its complexity and beauty. You begin to see your intuitive wisdom, your emotional intelligence, your capacity for deep connection and creative expression. You recognize that your sensitivity is a gift, not a burden, and that your need for beauty, meaning, and authentic relationship isn't frivolous but essential to your well-being. This process of inner witnessing gradually dissolves the shame that has kept you hiding behind masks. When you can see yourself with the same compassion you'd offer a beloved friend, you begin to understand that there's nothing fundamentally wrong with you. You've simply been trying to survive in a world that often doesn't honor the feminine, and you've done the best you could with the tools you had. The mirror of inner truth becomes your most trusted companion on the journey back to yourself. It shows you when you're slipping back into old patterns, when you're betraying your authentic needs, when you're choosing safety over truth, but it also reflects your growth, your courage, your increasing capacity to live from your center rather than your wounds. In this mirror, you finally see the woman you've always been beneath the masks, radiant, wise, powerful, and worthy of love, exactly as you are. The feminine energy that has been locked away in your shadow isn't just a psychological concept. It's a living force that, when liberated, transforms every aspect of your existence. Jung understood that this energy operates according to different principles than masculine energy. Where masculine energy is linear, goal-oriented, and focused on achievement, feminine energy is cyclical, intuitive, and concerned with connection and meaning. When this energy is suppressed or distorted, you lose access to your natural rhythm, your creative power, and your ability to attract what you truly desire. Most women have been taught to operate primarily from masculine energy, to push, strive, control, and force outcomes. While these qualities have their place, when they become your only mode of operation, you exhaust yourself and disconnect from your natural magnetism. The imprisoned feminine energy holds your capacity to receive, to flow, to trust, to allow, and to create from a place of inspiration rather than desperation. Liberation begins with recognizing where your feminine energy has been bound. Perhaps it's trapped in perfectionism, constantly trying to control outcomes and appearances. Maybe it's locked in people-pleasing, giving your power away to avoid conflict or rejection. It might be imprisoned in busyness, filling every moment with activity to avoid feeling your deeper emotions and desires. Or it could be bound in comparison, constantly measuring yourself against others instead of honoring your unique path. The process of liberation requires what Jung called active imagination, consciously engaging with the symbolic language of your unconscious. You might visualize your feminine energy as a caged bird, a sleeping goddess, or a wild woman who's been tamed. Through dialogue with these inner figures, you begin to understand what your feminine essence needs to feel safe enough to emerge. Often it needs to know that you won't abandon it again when things get difficult, that you'll honor its wisdom even when it doesn't make logical sense. As you begin to free this energy, you might experience what feels like chaos. Your old patterns of control and performance start to break down, and you don't yet trust your emerging authentic self. This is what Jung called the dark night of the soul, the necessary dissolution that precedes rebirth. During this phase, you might feel more emotional, more sensitive, more aware of what isn't working in your life. This isn't regression, it's your feminine energy coming back online and demanding that you live in alignment with your truth. The liberated feminine energy brings gifts that can't be achieved through willpower alone. Your intuition becomes a reliable compass, guiding you toward people and opportunities that truly serve your highest good. Your creativity flows more freely, expressing itself not just in artistic endeavors, but in your approach to problem-solving, relationship building, and life design. Your natural magnetism returns, drawing to you the love, opportunities, and experiences that match your authentic vibration. This energy also restores your connection to your body and its wisdom. You begin to honor your natural cycles, recognizing when you need rest, when you need solitude, when you need connection. You develop a more loving relationship with your physical form, seeing it not as something to be controlled or perfected, but as a sacred vessel for your feminine essence. Your sexuality becomes an expression of your power, rather than something to be ashamed of or used to gain approval. Perhaps most importantly, liberating your feminine energy allows you to experience what Jung called the transcendent function, the ability to hold paradox and complexity without needing to resolve everything into simple categories. You can be both strong and vulnerable, independent and interdependent, ambitious and nurturing. This integration creates a wholeness that's far more powerful than any mask you've ever worn. The journey back to your heart is the journey back to your authentic self, but it's not a simple return to who you were before the wounding occurred. Jung understood that true healing involves what he called the transcendent function, the ability to integrate your wounds and your wisdom into a new, more complete version of yourself. This isn't about returning to innocence, it's about achieving what he termed conscious innocence, the ability to remain open and trusting while also being wise and discerning. Your heart holds the blueprint of your authentic feminine essence, but it's been protected by layers of armor, built from years of disappointment, betrayal, and self-protection. This armor served you well when you needed it, but now it's become a barrier to the very love and connection you crave. The journey back to your heart requires the courage to slowly, carefully remove this armor, while developing new ways to protect your tender core. The first step in this journey is learning to distinguish between your heart's voice and the voices of your conditioning. Your heart speaks in the language of desire, longing, and deep knowing. It tells you what brings you alive, what feels nourishing, what aligns with your values and dreams. The voices of conditioning speak in the language of fear, obligation, and external expectations. They tell you what you should want, what's practical, what others expect of you. As you begin to listen more closely to your heart, you might discover that many of the choices you've made were based on what you thought you should want, rather than what you actually desired. You might realize that you've been pursuing goals that don't truly inspire you, staying in relationships that don't nourish you, or living in ways that don't honor your authentic nature. This recognition can be painful, but it's also the beginning of true freedom. The journey back to your heart also involves reclaiming your capacity for healthy boundaries. Your wounded inner child might have learned that boundaries lead to abandonment, so you've spent years saying yes when you meant no, giving when you needed to receive, and accommodating others at the expense of your own well-being. Learning to set boundaries from a place of self-love rather than self-protection is one of the most challenging aspects of this healing journey. Your heart also holds your capacity for forgiveness, not the kind that bypasses your pain or excuses harmful behavior, but the kind that frees you from the burden of carrying resentment. This forgiveness often needs to begin with yourself, releasing the harsh self-judgment that has kept you trapped in patterns of self-betrayal. As you learn to forgive yourself for the ways you've abandoned your authentic self, you create space for a more compassionate relationship with your own humanity. The return to your heart awakens your natural capacity for joy, wonder, and spontaneity. You begin to remember what it feels like to be delighted by simple pleasures, to laugh without restraint, to feel excited about possibilities. This isn't the manufactured happiness of positive thinking. It's the organic joy that emerges when you're living in alignment with your true nature. As you settle more deeply into your heart, you discover that it's not just the seat of your emotions, but the center of your wisdom. Your heart knows things your mind can't figure out. It can sense the energy of people and situations, guide you toward what's truly nourishing, and help you navigate complex decisions with grace and clarity. This heart-centered wisdom becomes your most trusted guide as you continue to evolve and grow. The journey back to your heart is ultimately a journey back to love. Not just romantic love, but the fundamental love that is your birthright as a human being. When you can love yourself fully, including your wounds and your shadows, you become capable of receiving and giving love in ways that are truly nourishing. You stop seeking love to fill your emptiness and start sharing love from your fullness. The journey you have undertaken is not merely a path of healing, but a profound rebirth. The authentic feminine essence that was once hidden, wounded and silenced, is now ready to emerge in its full radiance. Carl Jung described this process as the culmination of individuation, the integration of all parts of the self into a harmonious whole. This rebirth is not a return to innocence, but an awakening to conscious innocence, where wisdom and openness coexist. As you shed the layers of armor and masks, you begin to embody a new way of being, one that honors your complexity, your contradictions, and your unique beauty. This essence is not defined by external achievements or approval, but by an inner knowing and a deep connection to your own truth. It is the voice that speaks with clarity, the heart that loves without conditions, and the spirit that dances freely. This rebirth brings with it a profound sense of freedom. You no longer need to perform or prove your worth. You can rest in the knowledge that you are enough, exactly as you are. This freedom allows you to create boundaries that protect your energy and nurture your soul. It invites you to cultivate relationships that honor your authenticity and support your growth. Your creative power blossoms as you reconnect with your intuition and imagination. You find joy in expression, whether through art, movement, words, or simply the way you live your life. This creative flow is a direct expression of your liberated feminine energy, a force that inspires and transforms. The rebirth also deepens your connection to the world around you. You begin to see the sacred in everyday moments, to feel the pulse of life in nature, and to recognize the interconnectedness of all beings. This awareness fosters compassion, empathy, and a desire to contribute positively to the collective healing. Challenges will still arise, but you now face them with resilience rooted in self-love and wisdom. The wounds of the past no longer define you. They have become the foundation for your strength. You carry the lessons learned with grace, using them to navigate life with authenticity and courage. This chapter of your life is an invitation to live fully, to embrace your feminine essence in all its dimensions, and to shine your light unapologetically. The rebirth is not a destination, but a continuous unfolding, a dance between shadow and light, strength and vulnerability, surrender and empowerment. As you step into this new dawn, remember that your journey is unique and sacred. Honor your pace, celebrate your progress, and trust the wisdom of your inner girl who has guided you this far. She is no longer lost, but reborn, radiant, and free. This is your authentic essence, reclaimed, reborn, and ready to illuminate your world. Healing the inner feminine essence is not a linear path, but a profound journey of self-discovery and integration. It requires courage to face the shadows, patience to nurture the wounded parts, and compassion to embrace the whole self without judgment. As you move through this process, you learn that your wounds are not weaknesses, but gateways to deeper wisdom and strength. The masks you wore to survive were necessary at one time, but they no longer serve your highest good. Letting go of these protective layers allows your authentic self to shine through, revealing the radiant, intuitive, and creative woman you were always meant to be. This journey invites you to reclaim your power by reconnecting with your inner child, honoring your emotions and embracing your feminine energy in all its complexity. It is a call to live authentically, to love deeply, and to create boldly. Remember, transformation is a continuous unfolding, not a destination. Each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. Celebrate your progress and trust the process, knowing that you are supported by the wisdom of those who have walked this path before you. May this reflection inspire you to continue your journey with grace, courage, and an open heart. If this journey of healing and rebirth resonates with you, I invite you to join our community by subscribing to the channel. Here we explore deep transformations, share stories of courage, and support each other in embracing our authentic selves. Your voice matters. Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. What part of this journey touched you the most? Have you begun to reconnect with your inner child or shed a mask that no longer serves you? Your story could be the light that guides someone else on their path. Together, let's continue to grow, heal, and shine our true light into the world.